areas include optimism, gratitude, mindfulness, grit, and then self-compassion. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what each of those things are as we go through our time together. Before we get too far in though, I want to focus on mindfulness in and of itself. I really do love this little slide here. We've got our friend on the left who has a pretty full mind, thinking about whether or not their socks match, thinking about different songs in their head, thinking about things that are breaking, thinking about the fact that they're a photo frame that's connected to their keyboard has fallen over. Anyways, again, forget exactly what the images are. But the point is that our friend on the left has a really full brain. Whereas on the right, our friend's friend, this little hound here, is being mindful, is being focused on the present and what is immediately in front of them. So these trees on the horizon, that's all the little doggy is seeing. And so practicing mindfulness on a regular basis really can bring us to a state where we are more present in the situations that we are actually faced with. Mindfulness is the psychological process of bringing one's attention to the experiences occurring in the present moment, which one can develop through the practice of meditation and through other training. And so there's a couple different mindfulness resources here in this slide, but I also welcome you to share in the Q&A any other practices of mindfulness that you might have. Oftentimes students will say that they meditate. Absolutely. Folks will talk about walking in nature or being in the outdoors in general. I've had students tell me that for them, music or playing the guitar can bring some mindfulness. Anything that causes you to really focus in on exactly what is around you. With meditation, you're maybe focusing on your breathing or a particular mantra. It's just one thing at a time. So the more often we intentionally practice focusing on one thing at a time, the more likely we're able to do that the rest of our lives, whether it's with our academics, whether it is dealing with the chaos of just being in an online world focused in one window at a time and not all of the hundreds of windows that I might have open behind this presentation. So aside from mindfulness, one of these really important tools is also gratitude. Gratitude is a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. And with gratitude, people acknowledge the goodness in their lives. So as a result, gratitude also helps people connect to something larger than themselves as individuals. That can be to other people, it could be to nature, it could be to a higher power. And so the more often we're able to practice gratitude, the more often we start to feel more grateful. And that in and of itself can help to improve our well-being. So there's a researcher for all of this stuff. This researcher's name is Dr. Robert Emmons, and he breaks down gratitude into two different stages. The first being that gratitude requires the acknowledgement of goodness in one's life, and then also the recognition that some of the sources of this goodness lie outside of the self. So this is really important to be able to feel connected to a greater world. If we see sources of goodness as just occurring out there, it gives us a little bit of hope and it makes us feel more grateful for what is around us. So if anybody has a gratitude practice that they'd like to share with the group, you are welcome to toss that in the Q&A. Lots of folks practice gratitude through journaling, listing out the things that they're grateful for at the end of the day or first thing in the morning. I sometimes do my gratitude list while I'm brushing my teeth. I know it's something that I'm going to do every day, and so I'm sitting in the mirror, brushing away, thinking about the things that I'm grateful for that have happened to me that day. This is one of the things that people do around a kitchen table at dinner. They talk about the good things that happened to them in their day. If you have a gratitude practice that you want to share, please do. but more generally, you are welcome to you're welcome to try something new for a gratitude practice of your own. So next up, we have optimism. And optimism, rather, the basis of optimism does not lie in positive phrases or images of victory, but in the way you think about causes. And so this is written by a researcher named Martin Seligman, and I refer to Seligman a lot when we're talking about well-being. He studies the crap out of positive psychology. This is his jam, and he just because it's positive psychology doesn't mean that he talks positively all the time. Everything doesn't have to be positive, but optimism isn't just like that push, isn't just like hoping for good, but in fact it breaks down the way you think about causes. So it's not just like we're going to have a vaccine and we're going to get out of this. Really, if you're optimistic, you're going to see the layers of getting through COVID. You're going to see that it's going to mean that people come together. You're going to see that it means that people pool resources to be able to support vaccination for as many people as possible. You're going to see that it requires so much technology and research and development to be able to get those vaccines together in the first place. You see all of these causes, and that in and of itself gives a sense of hope and optimism. It's not just like, yes, vaccine, it's the vaccine actually means all of these different things. And I mean, you can use any example, but it's really unpacking the layers of something that is good. Can we increase our positivity? Can we increase our optimism? Yes, we can. And it is useful to try because optimism is linked to positive coping strategies and reduced negative coping strategies. So the more optimistic we are, the more likely we are to feel good, and the less likely we are to kind of dip into some of our negative coping strategies. That said, it is hard to achieve. Like, this is something that requires work and requires practice. Optimism is relatively stable over days or weeks. So it's not something like I'm optimistic today, I'm not optimistic tomorrow. I know we're all saying day by day in all of this, in all of COVID, one day is different from the next, but that could be your mood. It's not necessarily your outlook or your optimism. Over longer periods of time, though, a person's optimism can change significantly, and we can work towards changing that. I'm not going to lie, initially, in coming into COVID, my optimism wasn't all that high, and it was something I was like, all right, here we go. Can I work towards this and can I feel better? Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I get kind of nerdy about this stuff and do a lot of these positive psychology exercises on myself, and the thing is I do see a difference on a lot of occasions. So how do we facilitate this optimistic thinking? I mean, we could just tell ourselves that we have to see the glass half full. But really, what's far more, oh, I have hit subtitles, which you don't necessarily need. But really, to facilitate this optimistic thinking, we really just need to unpack what is in front of us. And so we can see a good thing, and then we can see the ways that we are connected to that good thing. I know I said earlier, when it comes to seeing the good in the world, it is useful to be able to see that there are good things outside of the self, but equally, we do need to be able to see what we contribute as good, or the things that happen to us, that they are good too. It's much better if we can see negative things as being disconnected from ourselves, and if we can see positive things as being connected to ourselves. So what am I doing right now during COVID to try to encourage, what am I doing right now during COVID to try to stay safe, to encourage the virus to dissipate? Well, I'm staying home. Okay, that's optimistic of me. I'm contributing. I can see myself in the outcome more generally. This is why we always are sharing these positive things. Also, what am I doing? I'm sharing that there are subtitles, and I'm sharing to be able to allow more folks to be able to participate in this conversation. Whereas I'm not seeing myself as the root problem. I'm not saying, oh, well, if only I had been wearing a mask for weeks before we were all sent home, then maybe COVID wouldn't have happened like this. No, that would be silly. But that is kind of the point of, if you look at something more specific, more minute in your own life, if you can take yourself out of the problem, not in a way that removes yourself from accountability, but in a real, actual way, so to stop blaming yourself for things that are happening. Really, the universe is just happening. COVID is not one of us at a time causing these issues. Equally, we need to be working on self-compassion. And so this is being kind towards ourselves. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that optimistic thinking of not blaming yourself for what's happening. Kindness toward the self entails being gentle, supportive, and understanding. And really just being our own best friend. So a great place to go for resources on self-compassion is selfcompassionorg. Some lovely things in there, and kind of just leaves you with some nice feelings. Yet another researcher, Dr. Kristen Neff, talks about self-compassion by differentiating between self-kindness and self-judgment. And she says that treating the self with care and understanding is much kinder than treating yourself with harsh judgment. The thing is, we do this to other people probably far more often than we do it to ourselves. And to be able to actually apply this to ourselves, we need to be able to harness a desire to alleviate our own suffering. We need to be able to actively soothe and comfort ourselves. And the way that I think about this all the time is I think about comforting a baby. The baby's crying, rock, rock, rock. Shh, they're there. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Those like sweet coos, those little hushes, those are things that we can give to ourselves. I mean, maybe as adults, we don't necessarily need to say sweet nothings in these ways, but take a second right now to think about what you appreciate when somebody cares for you. When somebody else is soothing and comforting you, what do you value in that? And can you give that to yourself? Honestly, like, I love a good hug, and it's so hard to get that these days. And I know it sounds silly, but I will give myself a big hug just to feel the connection and to feel some tightness and closeness. Are there things that you can do to actively soothe and comfort yourself, to treat yourself with kindness and treat yourself with compassion? The other thing that Dr. Neff talks about is common humanity versus isolation. And this right now, more than ever, I think is so freaking important. So if we can frame our own experience of suffering as part of the larger human experience, we're less likely to feel isolated or abnormal. Right now, so many folks are feeling isolated. So many people are feeling quite alone in this world. And so if we can see that our failures, our challenges, our struggles are actually what being human is, that is part of the human experience, that is shared by all other people that live on this planet, we can start to feel less alone. If we recognize that our lives are important, or if we recognize that our lives are imperfect and that we ourselves are imperfect, we can also start to believe that other people are imperfect as well. It's so hard to actually know that for sure when all we're doing is interacting with the best versions of people's selves on the interwebs these days. But know that everybody out there is not perfect. Everyone has flaws, and having those flaws is what makes us human. Finally, Dr. Neff talks about mindfulness versus overidentification. And I know I kicked things off by talking about how how mindfulness is one of these key components to our overall sense of well-being. But we need to be able to differentiate between mindfulness and actually just focusing on what is in front of us, and actually just focusing on what we're feeling. So what we're trying to do is avoid extremes of suppressing or running away from painful feelings. So that's something that I have been good at different parts of my life. You know, oh, just park that over there. You're not going to touch it. Or instead focusing on I'm anxious, I'm anxious, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and just focusing on the feeling. What we have to be able to do is see the feeling and release it, to be able to be with it, even if it's painful, and then mindfully let it go so that we can move on to the next thing that's coming in front of us. If we don't do that, we're actually not practicing mindfulness. If we don't move from one thing to the next and we stay fixated, we're not actually in the present moment, because believe it or not, even though we might be in the same rooms all day long, the world is moving, things are changing, and our present moment is ever changing. Self-compassion and general well-being is positively associated with some core strengths that each of us can hold. I would strongly encourage folks to, if you're keen on this stuff, I have tons of different resources for you, but if you are keen on this and want to do a little bit of self-study, you can find out what your top strengths are using a personality typology indicator called the VIA Strengths. Again, it's based all on this positive psych stuff. But when we focus on our happiness, when we focus on our optimism, these are strengths. When we focus on our affect, we focus on our wisdom or our personal initiative, our curiosity, working towards goals, our positive coping strategies, our resilience, our emotional stability, we can actually be kinder to ourselves. Some of those things probably come without saying. If we are focused on one of those things, we can start to be kinder. If we're happier overall, we're probably nicer to ourselves. If we're curious about what we're feeling, then we can be curious about being kind to ourselves. Same with if we're mastering our goals and finding some success, then we can be nicer to ourselves. So if you can focus on any of these areas, pick one or two, generally speaking, you can start to feel more compassionate towards yourself. So these are, again, the different places that we can focus on for our well-being. Gratitude, optimism, self-compassion, and then mindfulness, and finally, grit. Grit, as a word, kind of comes and goes in terms of its popularity out there, but Angela Duckworth is a researcher that really brought this kind of to be more popular in popular parlance, if you will, earlier in the decade, and she was doing research around grit, which is the perseverance and passion for long-term goals. Grit contains two components: the ability to stick to long-term goals and the ability to keep going despite adversity. And so it's not that like older sense of someone who's gritty and picks up their bootstraps and keeps on trucking. There's some negative connotations to that are inaccessible for folks. Absolutely. Grit for our purposes right now is bringing together this focus on the future and surpassing any lower stakes problem that arises, and bringing those two things together to keep on going and to eventually achieve some longer term big goals. You can grow your grit. You can work on your grit to, just like you can work on any of these topics that we've talked about, to improve your well-being overall by pursuing your interests. So honestly, congratulations to all of you who are new to the University of Guelph. I should have started with welcome, absolutely welcome, and good for you for pursuing something that is interesting to you. My bet is that you tried something at one point and now you're going to try something else. That in and of itself is a good indication that you are well on your way to improving your well-being, that you can focus on your interests and move towards those. Another way to grow your grit is to practice, practice, practice. Get a little bit better every day. By having a growth mindset that you can improve, you're able to keep on trucking and able to keep moving. Connect your goals to a higher purpose. So ask yourself how you are helping others, if that's a focus for yourself. Honestly, this is something that is keeping my grit in check during COVID. By staying home, I am helping others. By staying home, I'm entertaining my cat, who is running about all over the place right now. Apologies. But that higher purpose in and of itself, for me, is being met by staying home and keeping others safe. And that's helping with my grit and my tenacity to be able to keep going, even though there are all of these challenges associated with it. Cultivating hope. So removing your inaccurate or limiting beliefs. Hope might seem like a trivial word, but hope is enormous in the field of positive psychology and well-being. Without hope, without being able to believe that there is something good coming, it takes away from how we feel on a day-to-day basis, and it takes away our ability to actually really rise up and shine. And so we do need to investigate if we have beliefs that are getting in our way of moving towards what we can ultimately achieve. Are we downgrading our success? Oh, I'll never get that. Oh, I'll never be there. Okay, you got to sit down and think about why are you saying that? Because if you're not hopeful that you can achieve something, you might not persevere to get there. And then finally, surround yourself with gritty people. So creating positive peer pressure, being around people that can buckle down and really get going when things are hard, that will inspire you to keep on trucking yourself. I'm going to encourage all of us to spend today, whether it's during the session or otherwise, considering a new positive habit. So I'm going to try to pull up this video for us. And if I fail, come back to it. But I am gritty and I am going to see to the other side. We're going to get through this together. Hold on 1 second there, folks.
Living alcohol is best served chilled, unrefrigerated. No.
One moment, Jean.
Yep.
We're gonna have to share the video.
Yeah.
Drink a beer.
As
I'll be
part of the
1
screen.
second. Thanks everybody for sticking with us.
So you might have to exit the PowerPoint itself, like end the PowerPoint presentation.
Give me 1 sec, just getting things lined up here. Here we go. Now, do you just see me? I'm gonna open share tray, include system audio, 20-second rule. Here we go. Do. Can you give me one of these if it's working, Andrea?
It sure is.
Yeah.
In his book, The Happiness Advantage, happiness researcher Sean Ecker discussed how he went into
Jean, I'm not sure if you just muted yourself, but that also muted the video.
becoming one. If you want to change a habit in the long term, in the beginning, you have to rely on willpower. But willpower is a finite resource and can't be relied on. In other words, the more decisions you make on a daily basis, the more likely you are to experience what psychologists call decision fatigue. Once you experience decision fatigue, improving habits, especially at the end of a stressful day, becomes less of a priority. Habitual, negative behaviors, like watching television instead of going to the gym, become routine. Given a choice, we almost always go with the disempowering habits instead of the habits that are good for us. They offer us a path of least resistance and become the easier choice. But what if you had a tool to reshape that path entirely? A tool that made positive habits more accessible? In Edgar's example, he realized that having to remove his guitar from the closet increased the effort he needed to start practicing, even if that effort only cost him an extra 20 seconds. Those 20 seconds meant the difference between doing his habit and not. He came to a resolution. Put his guitar in the center of his apartment. The results? He practiced guitar for 21 days straight without exception. Edgar called this the 20-second rule. He says, lowering the barrier by just 20 seconds was all it took to help me form a new habit. The 20-second rule not only can be used to build new empowering habits, but it can be used to ease the transition between negative and positive ones as well. Edgar's next experiment was to replace watching television when he returned home from work with reading and writing his book. This time, he took the batteries out of the remote and moved them, you guessed it, 20 seconds away. Here are his findings. The next few nights, when I got home from work, I plopped down on the couch and pressed the on button on the remote, usually repeatedly, forgetting that I had moved the batteries. Then frustrated, I thought to myself, I hate that I do these experiments. But sure enough, the energy and effort required to retrieve the batteries, or even walk across the room and turn the TV on manually, was enough to do the trick. There are multiple ways you can experiment with the 20-second rule. Just remember, as a rule of thumb, you need to decrease the activation energy you need to do positive habits and increase it to do negative. If you want to replace a bad habit, like drinking.
Okay. Thank you everybody for playing with me on that video. I'm gonna come back into our presentation here and wrap things up before I pass things over to my fabulous colleagues. But what I would encourage you all to do is think about a habit that you can start today, you can start this week, that you can start this semester, and think about any of the barriers or the facilitators to achieving that habit. So Sean Anchors, one with his guitar. There's somebody in my household who believes in that theory and helps. The guitar that's behind me helps to be able to play it on a regular basis. If you live with somebody, I would not suggest putting it in the middle of your apartment. Maybe just find somewhere that it's not tripped over. That's been a problem some might have had. I don't know who, me. But if you can think of a habit and some of the ways that you can achieve the success for the start of the semester, you are well on your way towards building a positive sense of well-being. Anything that you can add to help you get there, anything that you can remove, but also think about any triggers that will help you to get started. So for me, if it's going outside for a walk, if I don't have warm socks on, I am not going to put my boots on. So if I already have my warm socks on, first thing when I wake up, then I'm more likely to head on outside. So think about these things that will help you get going. I am going to, I think, turn it back over to my friend and colleague, Andrea, before we start talking about some of the wellness related resources and the other things that we can do to try to work towards your well-being together this semester. Does that sound right about Andrea?
Thanks, Jean. So thank you so much for sharing about so much information that I can't even summarize in one sentence, but grit, gratitude, self-compassion, so much more. I think that's a beautiful jumpstart to this semester for being focused on wellness and well-being for yourself. And I also wanted to jump back in with Jean and some other folks from student experience as well about wellness resources. And the reason why we do this is for two reasons. One, it's a really good idea to think about resources proactively. When we're in a state of mind of thinking about our goals and what we'd like to get out of the semester, we're sometimes better able to look ahead and see what challenges might come up that might interrupt, be a barrier to, or halt our goals. Or also just think about challenges and experiences that we know we might have that might be related to our goals or not be related to our goals, but just might be a barrier to our success overall as a student or as a human being. And so we do really want to chat about resources from a proactive point. The other side is you might already be experiencing challenges and barriers. I know from chatting with a lot of students at the beginning of the semester and also last semester too, a lot of folks are seeing very different impacts because of the pandemic, and a lot of challenges and barriers that are related to that, but maybe a little bit disconnected from that, or barriers and challenges that have completely different origins, like racial justice barriers or experiences that are happening for folks around the world with international students and domestic students, and also in our neighbors in the US. So I do want to chat about it as a proactive piece, and also as a at some point this semester you might need resources because of an unforeseen challenge, barrier, or something that basically gets in the way of you being your most successful as a student. And so we know that for students like yourself, one of the best things that you can do is to know what resources would be best for you this semester and for your entire time at UofG, and to know what they are maybe 20 seconds closer. Thanks, Jean. So kind of like putting your guitar in the middle of the room, knowing what your resources are by writing them down or noting what ones would be best for you makes them just that much more accessible, so that when you go to think about how you can overcome a challenge or barrier, you know what resources are available to you around wellness. So I want to hand it right back over to Jean to talk about wellness services resources, and then we'll hear from some other folks as well.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Andrea. So we're going to jump back into this presentation briefly. You can see it there, Andrea?
One moment.
Yep.
Should be good.
Okay, fabulous. So I mentioned off the hop that I work for Student Wellness, and Student Wellness is made up of a variety of different units that provide support to students in a whole bunch of different ways. The first at the top of our page there is accessibility services. Accessibility services is available to any student with a temporary or permanent disability to be able to support them in their academics while they're a University of Guelph student. If you are looking for services from accessibility, student accessibility services, feel free to message me after this and I can help you get connected, or visit our website at wellness.uofguelph.ca for more information about contacting an accessibility advisor. We also have counseling services. Counseling is available to any University of Guelph student. They offer one-to-one support as well as a number of different group therapy programs. You can again learn more at wellness.uofguelph.ca, and there you'll also find the phone number to call to make an appointment for a counselor, for an accessibility advisor, or for any of the following services. On campus, we still have health services. So health services is running on campus still, but you can also get virtual and over the phone appointments with doctors and other clinicians, including a dietitian, mental health care coordinator, and nurses. And so you can speak with them over the phone or online. But if you do need to see a doctor in person, if you are located in Guelph, you are able to make an appointment to go in. Accessibility and counseling is all virtual or over the phone at present, and so we're offering groups online, we're offering online counseling for all of the students who access it. Education Promotion Center, that's me. I'm going to chat a little bit about some of our programs in a hot tick, but basically, we offer peer-to-peer education for students. So while my colleagues in other units offer professional services, what we do is offer students the ability to connect with another student for a lot of their support. Health and Performance Center, they are our manual therapies clinic. So we have massage therapists, we have chiropractors, we have physios. They all operate out of the Health and Performance Center, and because they are also essential services, they continue to be open to serve not only students, but the general public as well. So if you are located in Guelph and your partner or your parent or your child is in need of a chiropractor, massage therapist, they can head into the Health and Performance Center. We also have the Student Support Network. The Student Support Network offers peer-to-peer online small C counseling. So basically it is peer support, and if you need to chat through a decision, if you need to get something off your chest, if you need to be able to connect with somebody who kind of gets it as a fellow student, you can jump online and talk to anybody in the Student Support Network between noon and 10 p.m. Monday to Friday. They are an awesome service in the evening. So if you can't connect to a professional staff person, you can talk to somebody available through the University of Guelph. Finally, at the end of the page there, we've got the Sexual Violence Support and Education Unit. That is our Sexual Violence Support and Education Coordinator who coordinates that program. They are available to any student to chat with about any experiences of sexual violence, concerns about sexual violence, and also are available to help support the education and programming related to sexual violence reduction on our campus and more globally. So get more information through Student Wellness Services. If you need somebody after hours, we've got our Good to Talk and Here 24/7 lines. You can also text UofG to 686868. So there are supports available 24 hours a day for University of Guelph students. Also just want to give a plug for your benefits as a student. You have funding for private counseling, you have funding for massage, physio, chiro, naturopathy, and you have online therapy available as well. So just a heads up that you can check out the student benefit plan for more information about all of your student benefits. And if all of this information that I've given to you is like, oh, that's too much, Jean, that's fine. We've got a solution for that, imagine. You can book an appointment to see a Student Wellness Navigator to talk about all of these various supports or anything else that you're questioning from this presentation. And you just call our Student Wellness Front Desk line, 519-824-4120, extension 52131. That's how you get connected to any of these services, meet with a navigator, and they'll go through all of your options based on what your needs are at present. A couple different online resources there. We're going to skip over that for a hot second and then get to some important programs that I think if you are keen on what we have offered to you today, you might be keen on this stuff as well. Our peer-to-peer mentorship program called UShine offers students the ability to connect with another student to work on some of their well-being goals. So if you set a goal for yourself while listening to Sean Anker's video and you think, one of my facilitators might be some accountability, you can reach out to UShine to connect with a mentor. If you've got a New Year's resolution that you need some help breaking down, again, awesome opportunity to connect with UShine. If you like this kind of stuff but wish that we'd been able to talk back and forth a little bit more, you are welcome to join any of our Shine sessions and just search Shine in grifflife.ca. Find all of the various iterations of the program that are available. And then finally, I want to give a plug to our student recovery community. So if you have experienced substance use challenges in the past, if you are currently interested in changing your relationship with substances, we have a student peer support group called the Student Recovery Community that would be happy to meet with you. So you can connect with them at student.recovery@uofguelph.ca. So that takes me through the stuff that I wanted to chat about, and I will finally exit out of this presentation and let some of my friends and colleagues chat a little bit more. Thanks everybody for listening to me for so long.
Thank you so much, Jean. Okay, so we're going to hop in and chat with a couple of advisors from student experience, and we're going to start with Jared. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves because it'd be best to talk about the areas and the students that they support themselves. Jared, handing it over to you.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Sanchez-Cacnio, and my pronouns are they and them, and I work in the Student Experience Department as the Sexual and Gender Diversity Advisor. So that means that I specifically support our LGBTQ2IA+ students, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, two-spirit, intersex, asexual, and other identities that fall outside of heterosexuality and cisgender identities. So my office within the Sexual and Gender Diversity Office, I provide one-on-one confidential advising to students on a variety of different topics, such as if you're seeking and looking to connect with other people, if you're navigating difficulties related to relationships, if you're wondering about coming out, if you're questioning your identity and you're unsure, if you're having difficulty navigating labels or identities, particularly recognizing the pandemic, that there's been a lot of difficulty for folks in family dynamics and being home with family and feeling like you have to closet yourself or hide yourself. So I frequently connect with students that have concerns in those areas to listen, empathize, and provide advice and resources so that folks can navigate those difficult situations. Particularly one resource that I wanted to highlight for folks, as well as myself as an advisor meeting one-on-one with students. We also have a peer support program called Outline. And so Outline is an anonymous and confidential online chat platform that we have trained peer support volunteers running every single day, available to you from 7 to 10 p.m. So similarly, those are folks that can answer many of the questions and concerns that I frequently meet with students, but from a peer-to-peer perspective. And so if you're more interested in connecting with a peer on some of those matters, I would highly suggest checking out Outline, again, available every day from 7 to 10 p.m. In terms of finding ways to connect with me, I know Andrea is sharing within the Q&A how to connect with me further, but just know that if you're more comfortable emailing with me and connecting through email, we can definitely do that. If you are comfortable having a video call, we can do that as well. Or if you'd rather just stick to audio, I would welcome that too. So really, I want to meet folks where they're at and what they feel most comfortable with. That's all from me. I'm going to give it back to Andrea now. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Jared. Okay, we are going to hop on over to Rosemary next. And Rosemary, just unmute yourself and then you'll be good to go.
You think I'd have this by now. Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everybody. I am Rosemary. I am with the Indigenous Student Center, and I am going to share my screen. All right. So I am joining you from the Indigenous Student Center. I want to say Tansi, which is hello in Cree. My name is Rosemary Spring, and I am the Indigenous Student Advisor, also the Indigenous Liaison with the Indigenous Student Center at UofG. I'm Swampy Cree of Treaty 5 territory, which is in northern Manitoba, and I have mixed European ancestry. I'm also a UofG alumna, and I have a BAH in International Development Studies. I'm also currently doing my Master of Social Work degree. One of these buttons will change the slide. All right, so I want to welcome you to the Virtual Indigenous Student Center. I'm welcoming all students who are self-identified as First Nations, Inuit, and Métis to join us in our virtual community, which means if you want to email indigenous.student@uoguelph.ca, we can send you a link to join our MS team, which is on the Microsoft Teams platform. In the MS team, we're connecting with students trying to create a community space where you're able to chat casually amongst each other, but also we share a lot of information with you through this space. This includes announcements about events and programming that are happening through the Indigenous Student Center, but also updates about job opportunities, because there are organizations that we have relationships with that reach out specifically for job opportunities, both externally to the University of Guelph and on campus with faculty. Scholarships and bursaries that are specific to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students, as well as we have elders and knowledge holders that connect with students through this space. So we want to make sure that you know that there is an opportunity here for you to connect and build community and relationships with your peers and other students, as well as the ISC staff and our elders and knowledge holders through this space. Now, for anyone who doesn't identify as First Nations, Inuit, or Métis, you can still become engaged with the programming and supports we have available when it comes to events and activities through the Indigenous Student Centre, if that is something of interest to you. So I invite you to go on over to grifflife.ca and take a look at all of the different events posted there. It will kind of look a bit like this. It's squished onto the slide here, so not quite. But you can see that down at the bottom of your screen, you will find all of the different events and programming that are coming up listed there, and you can click on them and it will tell you how to get involved. And it will let you know if something is open to all students. This semester, when it comes to virtual programming, we're moving forward with a lot of different opportunities for students to engage in learning circles, cultural teachings and crafts, and even sometimes documentary screenings. We also make a point of recognizing significant days throughout the year. Examples I put here are Orange Shirt Day, which is on September 30th, and Indigenous Recognition Week, which happens in the fall. This is actually a photo from one of our fall events with Joseph Pitawanakwit. Joseph Pitawanakwit is from Wikwe-Makong First Nation, and he actually normally would take students out on a medicine walk where he will wow you with his knowledge of plants and healing medicines. But this time we did a virtual medicine walk. There was such a positive feedback from this event that he will be rejoining us in the winter 2021 semester. Other activities coming up include drum teachings, which is part of a drum series. The drum teachings will be with Elder Lois McDonald. And then we have All About Snow. This is actually an event that occurred today, or has occurred earlier today. And this is with our Inuit knowledge holder, Tawny Sheldon. And another example which represents Métis culture was a finger weaving activity with our Métis knowledge holder, Alicia Hamilton. So for students who come from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis backgrounds, we make sure that we do have some events and activities that actually represent all of those diversity of backgrounds. And all students, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, are welcome to get engaged. And if they're on Griff Life, they will tell you whether or not it's open to all students. So Indigenous student supports. We have some supports that are specifically for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students to help you with your wellness in this virtual environment. Our visiting elders and knowledge holders are still meeting with students in one-on-one or in group settings throughout the winter semester. So we have First Nations elders, we have Inuit knowledge holders and Métis knowledge holders, where you can actually book one-on-one appointments to get some guidance or to talk through something. And if you are a non-Indigenous student and you're doing research, you can also connect with the ISC, and we can let you know if there's opportunities to connect with these students or with these elders and knowledge holders as well. And they facilitate sharing circles as well as sharing teachings, like for example, the drum teachings that are occurring later this month. I'm the Indigenous Student Advisor, so I'm a resource for all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students. I listen and provide navigation support and guidance. You can connect with me about personal matters, whether it's family or housing or something that's on your mind. You can connect with me if you have some academic concerns or looking for financial support and information on scholarships and bursaries, or if you're just looking to make community connections. I will do my best to support you, and if there's someone else on campus who can do a better job, I will let you know and connect you with them. I hope that any First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students feel welcome to join me on Wednesday for what is called Wednesday Tea and Chat. This occurs between 3 and 4:30. It's a casual event to connect. Grab a tea, a coffee, a hot chocolate, whatever your hot beverage or cold beverage of choice is, and we will gather and chat. The first one actually was last week, and we are continuing this throughout the semester. So it's a good opportunity to get to know other students. There's other opportunities for student involvement that I just want you to be aware of. We have ISC assistants, which are work study positions where you can actually work with the ISC even in a virtual environment. And we also have peer helpers. You can connect with me if you'd like to know more information about those opportunities as well. And I also encourage you to connect with our Indigenous Student Society. They're on-campus Indigenous student-run organization where they do cultural activities. They have done moccasin making and dreamcatcher making, and they have social events and peer support, as well as Soup and Bannock Wednesdays. And yes, Soup and Bannock Wednesdays has been happening virtually as well. To learn more, to connect with us, I suggest you send me an email at rspring@uofg.ca. or even follow us on Instagram at UofG Indigenous. All right, over to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Okay, so just going to grab that, and then Tahmira, I'm just going to have you go live next.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Hi, everybody. My name is Tahmira Mohammed. I am just going to have, Andrea's going to pull up my slides for me, but in the meantime, I'll introduce myself. So my pronouns are she and her, and I work in student experience as the Cultural Diversity Advisor. So in my role, I support students who are BIPOC, so those who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And if you could just tap to the next slide, Andrea. Thank you. So in my role as an advisor, I can meet with you similarly to what Rosemary and Jared both shared. I can meet with you one-on-one, confidentially, to talk about your experiences as a BIPOC or racialized student. If you're seeking support around experiences of racism or exclusion, or really around any aspect of your experience as a student. If you're looking for resources, if you want to get more connected on campus, if you want to know what you can do about an experience of racism, or if you're just looking for some connection or support around finances, academic matters, personal matters, anything, you can reach out to me via email, and I put my email up there on the slide, or you can use the link that's being provided to you where you can book with any of our advisors in student experience, and I would love to meet you. Can you hit next for me? Thank you. So one service that we offer towards your wellness through cultural diversity is this BIPOC specific counseling service. So this is available every Thursday from 12:30 to 3:30. And Amin Singh, who is our counselor, she works in counseling services, so she is available to book with through counseling services, but she's also available every Thursday from 12:30 to 3:30 for drop-in style sessions, and those happen virtually. And so there's a link there, which is really just uofg.ph/BIPOC counseling will take you directly to where you can book in with Amin up to 2 weeks in advance, or even day of. You can book a session with her, and that's a really great way to get connected with a counselor who has lived experience with being a racialized person and who can speak to some of those experiences with you. Of course, you can also book through counseling services, or you can reach out to me and I can help connect you with a BIPOC counselor. If that day and time does not work for you, we do not want that to be a barrier to you accessing counseling services. This is just a way that you can do it directly without having to go through counseling services. On our next slide, I have Alexis Charles, who is our coordinator and who runs all of the fantastic programs that we have through the Cultural Diversity Office. And she'll be here next week to talk more specifically about those programs. But I do want to share that we recognize that a big part of your wellness is being connected to community on campus and making sure that you have people with lived experience like yours to connect with and to spend time with. And so we try to have a lot of programs and opportunities for you to get connected with other BIPOC students on campus, and Alexis is a huge part of that. Okay, so these are a few of the campus clubs and groups that you could join if you're looking to get connection on campus, and Alexis will share more about that next week. But for example, the GBSA, which is the first icon there, is our Guelph Black Students Association. And every Wednesday evening from 5:30 to 6:30, they host a discussion group that either myself or Alexis facilitates. And that's a really great opportunity to connect with people in a structured environment where questions are kind of posed and you have an opportunity to respond, but you don't have to be facilitating the conversation yourself. So this is a really great way for students to meet other BIPOC students, talk about issues connected to identity, and maybe avoid some of the awkwardness that can come out of trying to build a virtual friendship where there's not that kind of structure in place. And what else do I have to share with you? Oh, yes. So Alexis is going to share more about different events that we have, but because this one is next week, I want to share this with you, that this is our goal to connect other BIPOC students, play some games, and win some prizes. And so if you're available, and you're looking to meet some other students, I would encourage you to attend our Welcome Back social. And then a couple more plugins I have for you here. We have Black Heritage Month coming up next month. There's going to be tons of programs and events, so you can check out the Student Experience Instagram. Will be posting about them over the next several weeks. Check out the Cultural Diversity website on Student Experience, and Alexis will share more about this next week as well. And then we also have our Bipod Calendar. We also have a core mentorship program, which if you're interested in mentorship opportunities, I would encourage you to reach out to me via email or reach out to Alexis via email, and we'll get you connected to that. So that's an opportunity to get a BIPOC mentor. If you're in second year and above, you can get connected to a BIPOC professional or faculty member or staff at the university who can help you to work towards your professional and personal development goals. And then finally, this is what I was speaking to before, our BIPOC calendar. So we are currently shipping out these calendars to BIPOC students. They're completely free and they'll be sent directly to you via mail. And so if you're interested in receiving one, it's 12 images of really powerful looking BIPOC folks with different political quotes and identity-based quotes. And you can sign up by scanning that QR code that's on the screen there. Or if you want, you can reach out to me via email and I'd be happy to get you signed up for a calendar. So if you're interested in a BIPOC calendar, please reach out or sign up using that QR code. And I think that's everything that I have to share. Super looking forward to meeting some of you folks, and I hope that your experience at the University of Guelph is really wonderful. Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks so much, Tahmira. And then there is another few advisors who wanted to share information, and so I'm going to do that on behalf of them. And so I'm just going to open the slide as well that most folks are referring to here, where they said information on how to book appointments. And so I just wanted to pull that up. If you go to startonline.ca, you'll see that if you scroll down that there's a spot right in the middle called questions. And if you click that, there will be a spot right at the bottom and at the top where you can click to book a meeting with an advisor. And if you click there, you can book a meeting with anyone who is a student experience advisor. And I'm just also going to show you their information. So the link that we put in the chat, it will load in just a moment for me, includes everyone who is on screen today from Student Experience. You can see Rosemary, Jared, and Tahmira on here, as well as myself, and then also Puglini and Matt. And I wanted to share Puglini and Matt because as you can see, they are the international advisors. And they understand that being an international student brings its own set of unique challenges. And so they provide full degree undergraduate and graduate international student support by holding daily one-on-one meetings, monthly Q&As, and by answering questions via email. So whether it's a topic about guidance on how to best prepare for the move to Guelph from your home country, cultural adjustment and best practices to cope with those challenges, financial support or health insurance, immigration support, government guidelines and policies, or just figuring out how to get involved on campus as an international student, or any personal concerns you have, they are fantastic supports and their emails are there as well. They also act as an initial point of contact for all international students, and they kind of help you navigate the network of resources on campus and help you connect with the right resources that are suited for you as an international student on campus. So I really encourage you, if you're an international student tuning in, that you reach out to Matt and Puglini if you're not sure where to start or what resources are best for you. And then the last student advisor that I wanted to share, of course, is myself. I am the new student advisor. If you are ever unsure as to who can support you or who would be best to reach out to on campus, you are always welcome to reach out to me first. And so I just wanted to share that my information is on that page for that reason as well. And so you're welcome to reach out to anyone who's chatted today or anyone else on Wellness Services website or on the Student Experience website. Okay. That will be it for us today. I just wanted to say thank you, and that we do have one more Start on Campus Snow Days session coming through, and that one will be about community and connections, which you heard a few student experience advisors give a hint about for next week. So we hope you tune in then, and thank you so much for coming out.